Kai could tell at a glance that this person covered in darkness was the Origin King Realm Master who had been eyeing him before. This guy seemed to be watching him before entering the Severed World, and Ni Guang had also said that this person was very dangerous, and it was best not to provoke him easily. Yang Kai never expected to encounter this man here, or for the other party to have caught the prey he was after. The dark curtain which was currently trapping the shocking void beast was obviously an artifact belonging to this unknown Origin King. This artifact gave off a malevolent aura and was obviously the type that required a large number of living beings to be sacrificed in order to refine and enhance. It could be seen that the owner of this artifact was a vicious person who had killed countless people. Yang Kai frowned. The current situation was not favorable to him. Although Yang Kai did not need to fear this individual with his current strength, the shocking void beast was now in the other party's hand. Yang Kai had worked hard to heavily injure this shocking void beast, but it had now ended up in another person's pocket, a reality Yang Kai could not swallow. However, trying to snatch the shocking void beast's monster core in this situation would not be appropriate either. Yang Kai wasn't afraid of this man, and was confident he could escape without too much difficulty. That didn't mean he could break through his artifact and snatch the shocking void beast from him. In fact, Yang Kai estimated that his fate would likely be the same as this monster beast's if he were to charge in recklessly. What was he supposed to do now? How could he obtain the shocking void beast's monster core without irritating this man? Yang Kai thought it over but was unable to come up with a suitable answer. Hey. Just as Yang Kai's thoughts were churning, the Origin King wrapped in darkness once again let out an intrigued laugh, as if he was in a good mood, and immediately said, "Yang boy, you sure have your way with women. Having a beauty cling to you even in this kind of place, this old master is truly envious." As soon as these words came out, Yang Kai's expression couldn't help changing. The other party had called his surname as soon as he spoke, so obviously he knew him, but Yang Kai did not remember ever meeting such an Origin King Realm Master before. He had not met many Origin Kings, and his impression of every one of them was profound, but none resembled this man. Yang Kai stared at the other party calmly and tentatively asked, "Senior recognizes me?" "Of course this old master recognizes you." "Ha, why, did you forget this old master?" the Origin King asked in a teasing tone. Yang Kai looked at him and didn't feel any malice coming from the other party, so after pondering for a moment, he cupped his fists and said, "Forgive this junior for his lack of vision, but he truly does not remember senior. Since senior recognizes junior, could you perhaps show your true face? It's only natural you don't recognize this old master. After all, this old master has changed greatly compared to when we last met." The other party did not seem to take offense and nodded lightly. "You take a closer look at who this old master is." Saying so, the black chi which had been enveloping him dissipated slowly like a receding tide. In the next moment, the face of the other party appeared before Yang Kai's eyes. Yang Kai was taken aback and stared at this man in a daze, muttering in amazement a moment later, "Senior Gui Zhu, it's you." When the black chi disappeared, he immediately recognized who the other party was. This Origin King was surprisingly the first Origin King Yang Kai had encountered when he entered the Starfield. A man who had been trapped on that floating continent for 2,000 years and who called himself Gui Zhu. Gui Zhu was inadvertently swallowed by the domain eruption in the chaotic abyss and had been imprisoned on the floating continent for 2,000 years. During those 2 millennia, he had risen from the Saint King realm all the way to the Origin King realm, a near-legendary feat. However, he had also spent almost 2,000 years in isolation on that floating continent until Yang Kai and the others were stranded there as well. At that time, Gui Zhu had been trying to construct a space array that could send him out of the floating continent. Unfortunately, his efforts had failed. In the end, he had to rely on Yang Kai's achievements in Space Force to allow him to escape. A total of 7 people escaped at that time. In addition to Gui Zhu and Yang Kai, there was the Yue Shi master and disciple trio, Shen Tu, a son of Heng Luo Chamber of Commerce's president I.O., and another woman named Bai Ya. Such events were now part of the distant past, but they still left a great impression on Yang Kai, as it was his first real experience after entering the Starfield. How could he possibly forget such an event? Gui Zhu was a first-order Origin King when they met, and Yang Kai's impression of him was also quite memorable. Yang Kai had never imagined that they would meet again in this place. Although Gui Zhu was no doubt a cruel and violent man, he also clearly distinguished between gratitude and grievance. Back then, he accepted Yang Kai's life-saving grace, and after escaping from the floating continent, besides not killing him, he even gifted Yang Kai the complete Star Emperor token as thanks. Without that Star Emperor token, Yang Kai would never have been able to kill Luo Hai on Scarlet Wave Star. So, after learning that the other party turned out to be Gui Zhu, Yang Kai's vigilance immediately relaxed and he smiled at this unexpected and happy reunion. It is indeed this old master. Gui Zhu was in a good mood and laughed heartily as he scanned Yang Kai up and down, nodding lightly as he commented, "Kid, you're quite amazing. How long has it been since we separated? You are already a third-order origin returning realm cultivator. This old master remembers you were just a saint back then, right?" "Second-order saint," Yang Kai replied with a grin. "Senior Gui Zhu has a good memory." Gui Zhu nodded. "It seems that your opportunities these years have not been small. Otherwise, it would have been impossible to achieve such shocking growth." "Many thanks, Senior," Yang Kai replied. "How has Senior been these years?" "What can I say, not as good as you young kids apparently," Gui Zhu joked as he glanced towards Zhu Yue, who was still sleeping on Yang Kai's back, with a meaningful grin. Yang Kai simply chuckled. This was an accident of sorts. After thinking about it, Yang Kai suddenly asked, "By the way, Senior, have you managed to avenge your grievance?" Back then, Gui Zhu had said that after he escaped from the floating continent, he would seek vengeance for his past grudge. Before he became trapped, he seemed to have been framed by someone and plotted against, but his enemy's power was too great and at that time he was unable to resist. After reaching the Origin King realm, Gui Zhu had sworn to wipe clean this stain on his past. Now that several dozen years had passed, Yang Kai wondered if this wish had been fulfilled. Gui Zhu's expression turned gloomy as he went silent for a while before shaking his head and saying, "This old master's grudges are not so easy to repay." "Why do you ask, kid? Are you interested in helping this old master?" Senior must be joking. Yang Kai waved his hand quickly. Junior's strength is low, so how could he offer any help to Senior? If Junior were to involve himself and become a burden instead, it would be an unforgivable sin towards Senior. Yang Kai did not dare to agree casually. Although he had some small friendship with Gui Zhu, he naturally wouldn't rush into such matters. "Ha ha, don't be so serious, I was only joking," Gui Zhu chuckled. "But you don't need to improperly belittle yourself either. You were able to seriously wound this shocking void beast, so this old master can somewhat estimate your true level of strength." Yang Kai scratched his nose but did not argue. While the two were speaking, the shocking void beast received brutal torment, the countless yin soul-like human faces gnawing away at it constantly. No matter how the shocking void beast struggled, it was unable to escape the black curtain, and all its attempts to resist ended up in vain. By now, the shocking void beast's cries had become somewhat weak and its struggles had become less violent. Soon after, the shocking void beast stopped moving, leaving only the countless yin soul-like human faces howling and shuttling back and forth inside the black curtain, a terrifying sight to behold. Gui Zhu stretched out his hand and the black curtain immediately condensed into a black banner that flew back to his hand. Seeing this black banner, Yang Kai suddenly remembered. This black banner-like artifact was used by Gui Zhu when he was on the floating continent back then, but it did not have nearly this much power at that time. It was obvious that Gui Zhu had sacrificed many to refine this artifact in recent years, which in turn greatly enhanced its power. The black banner flew back, leaving only the shriveled-up body of the shocking void beast behind. When the wind blew, the last remaining traces of flesh on the shocking void beast crumbled into dust, revealing its bones. Soon after, even these bones, which appeared to have been drained of all essence, crumbled and collapsed into a pile of ash. Amongst this pile of dust, only one round, fist-sized bead with a lustrous glow remained. Yang Kai's eyes lit up as he stared at this thing fiercely. Gui Zhu gave a chuckle, stretched out his hand, and with a flick, the bead flew towards Yang Kai. "If you want it, just ask this old master. Why act so hesitant?" Yang Kai was overjoyed and quickly caught the bead, looking it over for a while in order to confirm it was the unscathed monster core of the shocking void beast. The energy contained in this monster core had not leaked out in the slightest. Smiling, he turned around and said, "Many thanks, Senior. It was yours in the first place." Gui Zhu didn't care. This old master also knows you're proficient in the Tao of Space, so of course he left this monster core behind. With it, your comprehension of the Tao of Space will advance quite a bit, yes. Yang Kai did not bother concealing anything and nodded. "Yeah, the purpose of me coming here is for this shocking void beast's monster core, so now I've obtained what I wanted." "Kid, you're as bold as ever, even daring to enter this kind of damned place." Gui Zhu looked at Yang Kai with a bit of amazement. "Since you got what you wanted, perhaps you can help this old master get what he wants now." "What does Senior need help with?" If this junior can be of assistance, he will certainly not refuse. Yang Kai carefully put away the shocking void beast monster core before turning to address Guizhou with a solemn expression. Although Guizhou did not seem like a good thing, he had been quite good to Yang Kai, especially during this unexpected reunion of theirs. Guizhou seemed very approachable and amiable, so Yang Kai naturally reciprocated in kind.